function for thousands of years in small groups and its tendency to form small groups sticks with us today. A small group can be defined as a collection of 3 or more people working cooperatively, independently to accomplish a task, whether it be creating a dramatic presentation, organizing a fundraiser, making a policy recommendation, or interpreting a constitution, or even providing a housing. In our presentation, we will be talking about small groups distinguished by their size, small groups that are independent, small groups that are cohesive, small groups that enforce rules and norms, small groups including individual rules, small groups having their own identities, small groups have distinctive communication practices, and last but not least, small groups often interacting online.
In my section, we talk about communicating with one-on-one, small groups, and large groups. When you communicate one-on-one, you basically focus more so on maintenance and personal relationship. When you communicate in a small group, you focus on tasks and performances. When you communicate in a larger group, it's basically harder to understand. To reach everyone on an understanding level, you may not be able to reach out and take everyone's knowledgeable as what you're saying.
Alright, my aspects I'm focusing on are interdependence and cohesion. Interdependence is basically how we bounce off of each other. Like things I say will affect everybody else in the group. It'll affect what Gino's going to say next, what Micah's going to do next. And what they do completely affects me as well. And that's also called systems theory. And for cohesion, it's just how we work together as a group and how well we go together. And for task cohesion, is basically we separate it up and give each other a task, and it's just we each do our own task and come together at the end. It can go badly when people don't do their task all the way, or they kind of half-ass it, or they do, one person does a great job, kind of shows everybody up. And another way is social cohesion, how we all work together, how we all communicate within those small group. And if someone's kind of overtaking it and then someone else can become too quiet, or we all can just sit there and stare at each other for an hour and a half and not get anything done. So it can become very dysfunctional.
In the gray box, they talk about the dark side of communication. Cohesive group is effective because everyone is contributing to the group's collective goals. And when cohesion breaks down, group members behave in ways that inhibit the group's goals. The group becomes dysfunctional because it is no longer operating to pursue a collective purpose. There are 4 dysfunctional behaviors. It is parasitism, interpersonal aggression, boastfulness, and misuse of resources. For parasitism, it occurs when some group members persuade or coerce others to do their work for them. For interpersonal aggression, it refers to actions that undermine the physical or psychological well-being of others, such as like bullying and intimidation. And for boastfulness, it is exaggerating the value of one's own contributions in relation to those of other group members. And for misuse of resources, it occurs when group members waste important materials or misuse equipment, reducing their availability for the rest of the group.
Good.
A group's rules are its explicitly stated principles for governing what its members can and cannot do. There are consequences for not following rules or becoming an outcast by the group. Other principles for how group members should behave are never officially stated, but seem to be understood implicitly within the group, which are called norms. Nearly every group has both rules and norms that its members are expected to follow. For example, the movie Mean Girls. The plastics tell Katie that if she wears, like there's rules in their groups that if she wears her hair in a ponytail more than once a week, or if she wears sweatpants more than once in a week, then she can't sit with them at the lunch table or something. Micah will now talk about the small groups, which include the individual rules.
Group identities. Small groups have their own identities. Each individual in a small group has their own personal identity, but when people come together to form a group, the group itself takes on an identity of its own as a unit. The book uses Freemasons as an example. And it talks about how there's symbols and codes and handshakes and all that kind of stuff that they use to identify themselves. and it talks about the initiation process. It talks about gangs. It talks about like Bloods and Crips and the initiation process they go through, and the symbolism, and makes comparisons, and fraternity. Interestingly enough, they equate Freemasons, gangs, and fraternity.
Yes. You're doing really well, guys. Just keep rolling. Keep going.
I don't know what happened, but small groups include individual roles. Most small groups have one or more collective role or purpose. Rather, individual members of the group will tend to take on specific roles and patterns of behavior that define a person's function within a group or larger group. Some roles in a small group are formal roles. They are specifically assigned to people to help the group fulfill its mission. Informal roles, they are not formally assigned. Anyone in the group can choose to take them on. Informal roles are usually filled by members taking on whatever work fits their personality. Informal and informal roles can therefore complement each other and create a positive small group experience.
Communication is important to small groups because without it, members will not be able to shape ideas, encourage one another, assign individual tasks, and stay informed on what others do. Researchers have discovered 4 specific types of communication that characterize small groups. Problem solving, which focuses on details how a small group can accomplish its task. Role communication relates to formal and informal roles that each member plays a part within the groups. Consciousness raising communication involves the group's identity and the miracle of its members. Encounter communication comprises the interpersonal interactions that occur among group members.
All right, online was the next issue. A lot of groups communicate primarily online. Small groups often communicate online, primarily and sometimes exclusively online. Some groups communicate exclusively online because the members of the group are located in different cities or countries, and so that makes face-to-face communication impractical. And other groups choose only to communicate online because computer-mediated communication can be more efficient than face-to-face communication. For example, instead of having to go visit a bunch of people, or 10 people in 10 different places, you just hit click and email 10 people at a time. So, all right, so as we've seen, several characteristics define the small group experience. We have group size, interdependence, cohesion, which there's a difference between interdependence and cohesion, we can outline that, and rules and norms, individual roles, unique identities, and communication practices.
Outstanding, guys. Round of applause for this group. Wait, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. Wait, no, you cannot. Hang on, folks, hang on. First, I must say, outstanding job, okay? Let me give you some positive feedback. Fabulous eye contact, strong, clear voices. I could hear you clearly, not just the volume, but your pace was outstanding. I could understand everything that you were saying. The fact that I didn't hear any trembling in your voices. If you were nervous, it didn't come out in your voice, which is really hard to do if you're not an experienced public speaker, which is fabulous. One of the questions I have for you in regards to small group communication, if you had the opportunity to select your group members, would you select the people that are currently in your group, and why?
Yeah, I would, absolutely.
Why?
Because we all communicate well. Everyone has something to say. Everyone participated. And,
We helped each other. Like, if somebody had a difficult time, like, we helped each other. And
Okay, now from the other 3 ladies.
I feel like I could talk to any of these. So I asked them for help, they asked me for help. No one was afraid to say, I don't know, or I don't understand, or can you say that again?
Okay.
I would, because even though we didn't actually work, well, we did work together in class, but we also had to do it outside of class, and we communicated well as when we got together, so.
Mankira?
I would because we all work together, like we help each other, like we went over everything together, like
Good. Now, how did you feel having this volume of material and such a small window to present it? Pressure. Okay. Now, one of the things I will do is when I find a way to launch this on Blackboard so you can review it, we will revisit this when we go over the chapters of public speaking, so that you will have the opportunity to look at yourselves in a presentation setting and take a look at what are the things that were positive. You have to select your own positive attributes, and then you can look at what you would like to focus on to work on, okay? Outstanding, guys. Another round of applause for this group.